Hello, my name is Thomas Regan. I'm a professional property investor here in Australia. Me and my wife have 20x'd our property portfolio in the last 4 years, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about how to grow a property portfolio quickly. Now, if you guys aren't interested in making a shit ton of money in your jobs to support a property portfolio, then maybe just take a look at the way that me and my wife have built our property portfolio. First of all, the properties we purchase in our property portfolio, we target properties that have high cash flow and they can ideally support themselves from the rental income, meaning the rental income is covering the entire outgoing costs of the property. That's mortgage and all the other outgoing costs that run the day-to-day activities of the property. Now, just getting that out of the way, we like to purchase properties that have equity in them from day one. If not in there from day one, they are going to get a little bit of equity growth straight away. Why do we want to buy properties? Let's call them under market value properties, because we don't want to have to save up our money. We don't want to have to have a huge income in our jobs to support the property portfolio, to continue the growth of the property portfolio. So that is why we don't necessarily even need to target areas that are growing in value, markets that are growing in value, to extract the equity from as soon as possible. All we need to do is target properties that are below market value. And when I say below market value, I mean, say, for example, if you're looking at a 3-bedroom house, look at other comparable properties in the marketplace, 3-bedroom houses. You see they're all, for example, $500,000. And then you see one, their photos are pretty bad. Maybe the lawn's overgrown, things like that. There's no blinds, or it's a little bit, hasn't been painted. For whatever reason, that one is not $500,000 like all the other comparable properties, but it's $400,000, or maybe it's even less. That is what I mean by under market value property. Okay, so you go ahead and you buy that property, and then pretty much straight away you can ideally, right, you can refinance that property and take that equity out again. So what has that done for you? Or what did that do for us when we purchased our first investment property? It meant we had another deposit ready to go to buy our second property. Now that is how we just repeated that process over and over and over again to get our property portfolio so large to the point where it is now in a very short period of time. If you're looking to spend a lot of time to grow a property portfolio, what a lot of people do, which I would not recommend, but you can do it as well as an addition to doing what I just said, buying under market properties and revaluing them, extracting the equity. But what a lot of people do is they do not extract the equity from their property, and they just simply save. And they save and save and save, and they save as hard as they can, and maybe they're buying a property every 2 years. Me and my wife have done it a little bit differently. We're just extracting the equity as quickly as possible. We're not necessarily saving any money ourselves. We're just leveraging the property as hard as we can, leveraging the property portfolio as hard as we can, and using equity to grow the property portfolio. Now, to get to where we are, not only have we been buying properties under market value, but we also were buying properties that were under market value in markets that were growing. So we actually got more like 2 benefits from the equity extraction and the appreciation of our portfolio. So sometimes we extract the equity from the property because it's under market value, and we'll do that straight away. But then maybe later in 6 months, we extract more equity from the property to multiply that. So for every 1 property, we're generally extracting enough equity to get another 2 properties. Okay? So that is how me and my wife have grown our property portfolio so fast. In the space of 3.5 years, we went from 0 properties to 11, and at the peak, I think 1 year we bought about 6 properties in 1 year. So if you get familiar with this process, if you get comfortable with this process, if you understand the fundamentals of this process, you can increase your property portfolio very quickly. You don't need to save your own money to grow your property portfolio. In fact, me and my wife, to grow our property portfolio to the point where it is now, we quite literally only saved up for the first deposit, and we have not saved a cent since. And I will just add that not only have we not saved a cent since the saving up for the first deposit, but we have also never ever put our own money into maintaining the cash flows of the property portfolio. Means what I'm saying is the amount of equity we have in our property, we keep there as a buffer, and if there's any expenses that come up in the property, we use the equity to fund their expenses. And also the property portfolio is positive cash flow, okay? So where a lot of people, the type of properties that a lot of people, and usually these people are novices, investors, and I'm saying novices because they can't progress their portfolio. They get stuck. These people get stuck because they're on an average income, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can still grow a large property portfolio on an average income, but they're on an average income, and what kills it is they're buying negatively cash flowing properties. So they not only can they not save for the next deposit for the next property, but they can't even afford because the property is negative cash flow. So they literally can't even afford to get more servicing to buy another property because there's not enough income. The property portfolio doesn't produce enough income to allow them to service and get more properties. Okay, so that's a big area where people go wrong building a large property portfolio. But even if you're in a low income, you and your wife, or even if it's just you can build a large property portfolio if you know how to recycle your debt and you're targeting properties that are positive cash flow. Look, targeting properties that are positive cash flow is not only beneficial because it's safer in terms of if you lose your job, you don't also start losing your property portfolio as well, but it's also beneficial because it helps the servicing. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.